So it's been a long time since the Star Wars Questionnaire was started by Grey Jedi 91 many years ago. In my first year on YouTube, I also gave my answers to this set of questions. Since then, I've always wanted to go back and redo the video in greater quality and give more thorough and concise answers. Not to mention, some of my answers have changed, so let's get started. Jedi or Sith? As is the case with the original video, if I had to go down the purist route, I'd choose to be a Sith for their open-minded and practical mindsets. However, having learned a lot more since then, I think I'd rather be a Jedi. As my good friend AI Central mentioned in his own video, you can still be a member of the Order and act outside of the Council's more laid-back jurisdiction. My view on the Force is very much in line with Kyle Katarn's opinion on the matter. Kyle believed that abilities were not inherently good or evil, it ultimately comes down to how you use them. Given this lifestyle, I would most likely take the role of a Jedi Sentinel, or even be a part of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order from Legends, if it were an option to me. This way, I'd have much more freedom to fulfill my role as I saw fit. Of course, if I weren't allowed to stay in the Order, then I'd just become something of a rogue Jedi, a la Rebels Ahsoka. Favourite worlds? As I said last time, I'd like to live somewhere like Naboo, as it is a very calming and peaceful planet. Sounds like a good place to de-stress. Some other worlds I'd love to explore would be Korriban for the ancient Sith tombs, and Ziost for its cooler climate, as I don't generally cope well with heat. Type of lightsaber, lightsaber colour, and fighting style. 2 standard lightsabers that I can join together at the hilt grant me the benefits of several weapon varieties, essentially the same loadout as the Sith Blade Master Kasim. The blades would feature 1 red and 1 green crystal each. I actually like this colour combination over the original red and blue. As a secondary option, if possible, I would also like to wield a pair of sabres with a white and black blade each. This is because my desired position as a Jedi Sentinel would be that of a Jedi Shadow, striking out against evil whilst remaining hidden, attacking as something of a ghost. My primary fighting style would be Form 6 Naiman, for its inherent versatility. Much like before, I would first dedicate myself to mastering Forms 1, 2, and 3 to build the foundation of my style. These styles all have their own unique benefits and cover each other's weaknesses really well. I would wield these styles with the mentality of characters such as Dooku, Shaak Ti, and Kit Fisto, applying the strengths of each style together, making for a highly versatile and varied moveset. Favourite species? Zabraks are my go-to, given how my favourite character in the series is a member of this race. Not to mention, I love their simple, yet detailed design. They are simply a picture of art. Furthermore, Zabraks are also immensely committed to whatever task they set their mind to, which is both respectable and inspiring. Some honourable mentions would be the Yuzhong Vong for their intimidating design and the fascinating lore behind them, as well as the ferocious Krayt dragons, as dragons are my favourite creatures in all of fiction. Favourite vehicle? The Rogue Shadow. There are many awesome ships, let alone vehicles in Star Wars. However, the Rogue Shadow fills every role I could need. It's great for hyperspace travel, it isn't too big, and so is rather manoeuvrable, and it of course can cloak for remaining undetected. Plus it has the added benefit of internal space, so I can move around. I hate being stuck in the driver's seat in my car on overly long journeys, and I would want to be able to stretch my legs while aboard my spacecraft. If you were a Jedi, which master would you want? I lean towards Plo Koon. Plo was relatively more active than some other council members. His black and white philosophy could be seen as a bit harsh, yet it allows him to ensure that he gets his job done with as much efficiency as possible. While I do understand the notion of some moral issues having a more grey area, Plo Koon's role as an assertive peacekeeper appeals to me a lot more, and would inspire me to be more proactive. Some honourable mentions would of course be Kyle Katarn, for reasons I explained earlier, and maybe Ram Kota, as he too was much more active in his duties. If you were a Sith, which master would you want? Darth Bane. In my opinion, Bane is the personification of what a Sith should be. He is a perfect blend of both a warrior and a scholar. He is one of the most practical Sith, active yet scheming. Not only could I learn a lot from him, but he also created the Rule of Two, which is what I believe to be the most effective way to run the Sith Order. His wisdom and teachings were so revered and respected that even Jedi and the Sith who broke away from the Rule of Two still sought out his wisdom. Now that says a lot. If you were a Sith, then what would your Sith name be? My original name was Dominari, Latin for dominate, or something along those lines. However, I often found it to be a rather boring title, so I came up with something more meaningful. This time, my Sith name would be Darth Questionnaire. Skyrim fans might recognise this. Within the Elder Scrolls series, dragons have their own language known as the Thumb. Within the Dawnguard storyline, the Dragonborn battles an undead dragon named Durnavir, who out of respect addresses them as Questionnaire after the battle. But what does it mean? When translated, Questionnaire means vanquisher.
In my language, the Questionnaire is the vanquisher, the one who has bested a fellow Dova in battle.
This is perfect for a Sith. Whether you are scheming within the shadows or asserting yourself on the battlefield, you are seeking to vanquish all who oppose you. With a title stemming from the language of some of fiction's most fierce creatures, this name means a lot. Not only would I approach battle with the ferocity of a dragon, but the name just sounds so mysterious and chilling to me. Hence, Darth Questionnaire. Favourite film? Revenge of the Sith. From an objective viewpoint, I actually think that The Empire Strikes Back is the best. However, Episode 3 is the one that I get the most enjoyment out of. It has just the right amount of action to balance out the story, and it has what I consider to be one of the most tragic moments in Star Wars, the confrontation between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Even without the excellent world building leading up to the end of their friendship, you can tell just how strong their bond is from the movies alone. Ewan McGregor is of course fantastic, and easily my favourite actor in the series, and he perfectly portrays a younger Obi-Wan, and his transition into the Ben Kenobi of Sir Alec Guinness is brilliant. I also really liked Hayden Christensen's performance. Yeah, there are some awkward moments, yet that is a part of Anakin as a character. He's awkward because he doesn't know how to handle his emotions and the situations that he ends up in. Overall, Revenge of the Sith is an exciting and emotional rollercoaster of a movie that I'll never tire of. Least favourite film? Before I give my answer, I just want to say that I don't actively dislike or hate any Star Wars movie. As far as I'm concerned, they all have their pros and cons. Originally, my least favourite was Attack of the Clones, simply for the sake of how all over the place the plot was, and the awkward romance. Though I've come to appreciate the latter, since my understanding of the characters in question has developed. Now, my least favourite would have to be The Last Jedi. I haven't read much of the new Jedi Order material, and I'm not saying that we need Luke to be as overpowered as he was in the EU, yet he just didn't feel like himself. Vader had committed far worse atrocities than Kylo ever did, and Luke was fully aware of some of them, yet his transition into becoming a hopeless hermit just didn't feel right. If Kylo's fall had been gradual, and Luke's morality had been worn down over time, then I could buy it, but we never see that degradation, we just see the transition. I will say that Mark Hamill's performance was brilliant though. He did a great job with making me believe that this was an alternate version of Luke. And that deleted scene where he finds out that Han is dead was heartbreaking to watch. My other main issue is one that many others share, the out of blue romance between Finn and Rose. It just comes out of nowhere and doesn't feel natural, as they never really bonded properly up until that point. And it makes Rey and Kylo's romance look believable by comparison. I will say that Kelly Marie did not deserve the hate she got though. That was unjustified and uncalled for. She didn't have anything to do with the bad story decisions. I don't know if others can say this, but I can really feel the Disney influence in the sequel trilogy. The prequels have their flaws, but to me at least, they still feel like Star Wars movies within the Star Wars universe. The sequels feel more like Disney movies set in the Star Wars universe. On a positive note though, I can't fault the sequels or any Star Wars movie for that matter, for their effort on presentation. The sets and music are as beautiful as they have always been. If you could write your own Star Wars novel, what would it be about? It'd be a story about a time-travelling Jedi. Now I know that's something that seems ridiculous for Star Wars, but it wouldn't be traditional time travel. My character would be something of a rogue Jedi, who would sporadically go into stasis for several years at a time, only emerging upon being alerted by extreme disturbances in the Force. Think of them as an extreme version of a Jedi Shadow. This story would go on for hundreds of years, as sometimes my character would spend decades in stasis before awakening. They might even meet Master Yoda around the halfway point of his life, before having an encounter with the Rule of Two Sith. Of course, to keep them a secret, my character gets involved in an accident that leaves them trapped in stasis for centuries, and not awakening again until around the era of the New Jedi Order, or maybe even shortly after the Legacy era. If you can't tell already, my novel would of course be set in Legends. At this point, my character would be hundreds of years old, and feeling guilty for not being able to warn about the Rule of Two, decides to quit the stasis operations and spends their remaining years being as active as possible. Which film has your favourite soundtrack? The Phantom Menace. This was my favourite Star Wars movie as a kid, as it was the first one I watched in one sitting, and back then I was more interested in action over story. As such, The Duel of Fates was, and still is, incredibly nostalgic. It's intense, exciting, and it plays over an awesome lightsaber duel to boot. A couple honourable mentions would be the soundtrack to the Mustafar duel. The creators said that they wanted a tragic version of Duel of the Fates, and I think they nailed the intensity and heartbreaking atmosphere of the battle. Binary Sunset is also great, as it's just so mesmerising, and you really feel Luke's longing desire for a more fulfilling life. Do you collect figures? I don't. I do have a few metallic figures from when I was a kid, but they are pretty banged up now. I also have a couple pop vinyls, however I am not an active collector. In your opinion, what is the best thing about the expanded universe? The world building. Thanks to the EU in either continuity, there is so much to learn and explore within the realm of Star Wars, which makes for some of the most fascinating storytelling. The EU also had a great influence and held inspiration for new material that is still being added to this day. In your opinion, what is the worst thing about the EU? Unnecessary retcons. My favourite character has multiple versions of his origin story. It almost feels like the hard work of the people who worked on the old material is gonna go to waste when you realise that many modern Star Wars fans are going to miss out on all the wonderful material that has been put out over the past 4 to 5 decades. Yeah, parts of Legends are not canon anymore, but that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy it for what it is. Hell, the stories from Star Wars Tales and Infinities were never canon even from the perspective of Legends. Yet they too have some awesome material, such as an alternate version of events where Luke failed to destroy the first Death Star. My good friend Sci-Fi Soup has an awesome video on his channel explaining why the EU is still important to this day. Check it out if you want to learn more. And finally, what does Star Wars mean to you? A hell of a lot. In my opinion, Star Wars is perhaps the most flexible and versatile franchise out there. Regardless of what you're looking for, a fun movie, a dramatic show, an enjoyable video game, an enticing novel, an artistic comic, there is something for everyone in this vast universe. Even then, all the things I just mentioned have different styles and themes to fit whatever it is you are looking for. The series also explores dilemmas that feel also real, even if they are set in a completely different world to our own. And finally, Star Wars is the franchise responsible for the fantastic friends that I've made over the years on YouTube. I would have never have gotten to know these people if it wasn't for Star Wars. Regardless of what direction the series takes, the bonds I've made with these people will last forever, and I have George Lucas and the beautiful world he created to thank for that. And there we go. Some of those answers were a lot longer than I expected. If you would like to answer the questions for yourself, I will post the questions in the description and pin them at the top of the comments section. Feel free to let me know what your answers are, even if you did so on the original video. It's always interesting to see how one's opinion may change over time. Well, I've said enough for today, so if you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the channel. And until the next video, may the Force be with you. Always.